What's up, folks? So today let's talk about one of the most sensitive questions, yet perhaps the most important question about the profession of the so-called futurist or foresight professional. Those people who help organizations, policymakers, or clients more generally to better navigate, prepare for, and shape the future. And that question is, how do you spot a charlatan futurist? Super important question, not only if you are a client looking forward to hire one of those professionals, but also if you are one of them and don't want to be a charlatan. I will share with you 4 signs of a charlatan futurist, and I will derive 4 tips of how to identify a charlatan futurist based on them, the 4th sign being the most subtle, so stay tuned for that. So let's get right into it. Okay, first thing first, let's get one thing out of the way. Although in my opinion it is much more appropriate to use the term foresight professional rather than futurist for reasons I have explained in this video, it is almost impossible to understand how solid is the work of one of these professionals just by looking at their professional moniker. There are tons of people calling themselves futurists, foresight professionals, foresight specialists, foresight practitioners, futures specialists, futures practitioners, futures professionals, futures researchers, futures literacy experts, futures literacy researchers, and so on. It's really a mouthful, but these names say very little of what these people actually do. Some of these people are really good, some of these people are really bad. These names are not a good proxy. That is why in this video I will use the term futurist, although I don't super like it because it is the most commonly used. Now, if we put names aside for a moment and we focus on the actual stuff these people do, we will find the following 4 signs of a charlatan futurist. Alright, first sign of a charlatan futurist. Some futurists look at trends of the present and based on where the trends are going, they will project the future, one future. While other futurists will, yes, look at trends of the present and based on trends and other things, will create multiple scenarios. Now, of course, the first category of futurists is way more shallow in their analysis of the future compared to the second category of futurists. Because the future, or better, futures, contains a lot of uncertainties, things you do not control on the top of trends. So if you only look at trends of the present, in the long run you most likely will be misguided. It's the story of the chicken which gets food by its owner every day, and so it thinks it will have a very happy life in the future until it gets killed by its owner to be eaten. Oops! So your first tip on how to identify a charlatan futurist is to ask yourself, does he or she exclusively look at the trends of the present, and based on those trends, does he or she project one baseline scenario? Or does he or she actually create multiple scenarios? Now, this is super important, especially if you're looking forward to employ one of these professionals in question to improve the strategy of your organization, because the first, more shallow category of futurist will derive the strategy of your organization directly from the trends, like this.
But what is futurism in general and what is applied futurism? What's the distinction there between the two methodological approaches?
So futurism is a general view of the future. Applied futurism, so we come with this. When we come to a client, I think we have a very good idea of what's going to happen, to whom and where and how and all of it. But when we come to a client, they want to know, what does it mean to them? That's applied futurism.
Oh my God! But on the other hand, the second, less shallow category of futurists will derive the strategy from multiple scenarios, which is much more robust. Alright, second sign of a charlatan futurist. Some futurists use the same foresight method over and over in any project, most likely just because they know that one method, while other futurists know many methods and will pick and choose each of them or a combination of them depending on the project. This is quite self-explanatory. Of course, foresight is used by many different organizations with many different goals, from enhancing preparedness to fostering innovation to implementing more sustainable solutions to bringing the organization on the same page with regards to its strategy. As a consequence, the foresight professional should know how to pick and choose methods or a combination of methods among many different foresight methods, including horizon scanning, environmental scanning, tree horizon, causal layered analysis, scenarios, archetypes, wind tunneling, prototypes, and so on. And he or she might also be able to build new methods depending on the exigencies of the specific project. So your second tip on how to identify a charlatan futurist is ask yourself, does he or she actually have a foresight toolkit, right? A toolkit. And on the top of that, does he or she actually have the ability to expand that toolkit with new methods depending on the project? Okay, third sign of a charlatan futurist. Some futurists call themselves as such after little or no experience in the field, while others call themselves as such after having accumulated several years of experience in the field. Pretty straightforward. So let's face it, the names futurist and foresight professionals are very trendy, so people just like to use them because they sound cool on their LinkedIn profile. On the top of that, there is not an agreed upon definition of what set of credentials a futurist should have. As a consequence, it is very easy to become one by name, but it is not so easy to become a good one because this profession entails a lot of facilitation skills, consulting skills, client engagement skills, a basic grasp of the future studies and foresight literature, experience with using foresight methods for consulting and research projects, and so on. So it takes time to build that experience. So your third tip on how to identify a charlatan futurist is to ask yourself, does he or she actually have a solid experience in the field? This is something you can easily gauge online by looking at whether the professional in question has previously built some scenarios for clients or for research, and by looking at whether the professional in question has previously facilitated some foresight workshops. Again, proof of which you will be able to find online, and related stuff. Okay, fourth and last sign of a charlatan futurist. Some futurists bias the foresight work they do with their preferred scenario in their topic of expertise, while others maintain neutrality about the futures. So this is a very subtle one, so let me explain. Based on the futures of XYZ, whatever topic of expertise they might have, some futurists also have an opinion about their preferred future in that topic of expertise. For example, let's say a futurist has an expertise about the future of AI. He or she might also advocate for the singularity, which, as we well know, carries a lot of controversies with it. Now, so far, so good. There is nothing wrong in having that opinion. Yet, the problem comes when that futurist facilitates a foresight project for a client, and instead of providing several scenarios with equal priority of the futures of AI for the client to consider, he or she consciously or subconsciously ideologically pushes for the singularity, their vision. Now, in the vast majority of cases, it is much better to maintain topic neutrality, as this article suggests, because you never know how others could lose from a vision of the future you gain from, right? Very simple realization. So your fourth and last tip on how to identify a charlatan futurist is to gauge whether this happens. Does he or she actually bias the foresight work they do? However, I have to say this is a very subtle issue, so it has to be determined case by case, because there are indeed situations where the futurist is called to share a preferred vision of the future, and for good reasons. For example, let's think of a project of scenarios of the futures of human trafficking with the purpose to end slavery. Now, it is pretty straightforward what vision of the future should be promoted in that specific situation. Alright, I hope this was helpful for you to know more about the profession of the futurist or forcer professional. Although the first sign I've shared with you is quite serious, if you see one of these signs alone in a futurist, it does not necessarily mean that he or she is a charlatan, because these 4 signs have to be taken together. That being said, I'd love to hear about what you think about this. Can you think of other tips to identify a charlatan futurist? Put it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!